Hi everyone! I get asked a lot of questions about how my Patreon is different to my YouTube channel. So I thought the best thing would be is to do a little video for you now to explain what you get if you join my Patreon. So first, what on earth is Patreon? Well, it's an online teaching platform based on a subscription service, so you can choose what you get out of it. So from just £2 a month, which is my lowest tier, you get to make suggestions for what YouTube videos you would like to see. Then we have my next tier called the Daisy tier, and that's £3 a month. And for that, you get to suggest what YouTube channel videos you see, and also you get to join me behind the scenes on my close friends list on Instagram. So Patreon rewards travel across different social media platforms. So if you love to see what I paint on Instagram, but love to see a little bit more into the process, then joining the Daisy tier is the one for you. Now, the one I think most of you would be interested in is the Sweet Pea tier, which is where we get special weekly watercolour challenges, which are film tutorials especially for you. They don't appear on YouTube and they're just for my Patreons. And that's where I'm really keen to develop your creative confidence and help you really boost your artistic sort of bravery, I suppose. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you a little snippet of a few of my favourite Patreon watercolour challenges so you can get an idea of what we do over there. So the first video I'm going to show you is one of our tree painting series. The great thing about Patreon is we spend a decent amount of time over a couple of weeks or a month looking at one subject, as opposed to when on YouTube I just do one tutorial each time. So here is my simple tree painting introduction. This is one of the trees when the tree trunk is almost more important than the branches and foliage itself. So I'm actually going to start sort of from the top of one of the branches, and I'm just going to draw it down into the base, and then just with the tip of my brush going to add a few branches. So this trunk is made up again of a slightly different type of series of brush strokes, but it's still not just simply a solid block, you see. And the paint is really quite wet. And although I'm using my size 2 brush, it's really not that small, but you can still get a really nice thin line with it. So this colour I'm using on the trunk is a sort of combination of burnt sienna, French ultramarine, bit of Mars black as well. Okay, that's a lovely looking trunk, and now I'm just going to come in with my brush fairly low to the page and just blot it with a bit of colour. Not going to do too much with it. So when I said clouds of trees, you see what I mean now. One thing we can do is add a little bit of more darkness to the base of these bits of foliage, but really it's not too much involved. I think this is my favourite tree type of painting anyway. So add a little bit more in, and that is lovely. The second sneak peek I'm going to show you is part of my house illustration series of tutorials, I get asked an awful lot to share my secrets about how I paint houses of all shapes and sizes. So we have done, amongst others, we've done a cottage, a lovely country cottage, and here is a little snippet of how we tackled the brickwork. So before you put your bricks into place on the house, I would love you to have a go first at these two techniques and see, there might be one you prefer. The other top tip I would say, is if you're painting your bricks like this, it is so much easier to paint in ones underneath. Painting in ones over the top, it's hard to angle your brush and not have it get completely mixed up in the brick underneath it, so do consider that when you're painting. Now all these bricks we've painted here are very large, and even for this house they're way too big. So let me get my smaller brush and show you how the technique is exactly the same but just on a smaller scale. So I'm actually going to do it on the house so we can see. Okay, so I have got a size 2/10 brush. It is my favourite, and I am going to paint in this section with this approach to bricks. So I'm left-handed, so I'm starting here. I should really start here, but you can really do whatever you want, really. So the bricks, although much smaller, are still defined. I like getting, we'll get a little bit of blend in there. And I've decided to do them straight on to the page without any wash underneath, because I personally prefer that approach. Now it's also important to see when you're working on a smaller scale than to here, is colour shrinks. And what I mean by that is colour gets fainter. So you see this little brick here, it's really quite bold, and I want to sort of take a bit of colour out of it, so I'm just using it as a little well of colour to paint in all these other ones here. But yes, you don't want to be going in and painting really strongly coloured bricks when you are working on a small scale. I'm still using the belly of the brush. I'm also having a think about the architectural details that I have to navigate my way around. So there will be times where I'm really using the fine point of my brush, getting in there with some real detail rather than just using the belly of the brush and doing it in one fell swoop as I was showing you. But you soon see that is starting to look very nice, and it is a range of colours, it's a range of shapes, but they are all in that sort of alternating, dovetailing brickwork. They are not sat bolt up on top of one another, and every now and then if you get a colour that's too strong, you just go in with a clean wet brush and you could either draw some of that colour down like that, making another brick that sort of touches it, or you can just use it as your well of colour. So I am going to finish off painting these bricks, and then we'll have a look at the smaller house and what the differences are. And then once we've done them all, we can look at painting the clear water wash over the top. Now that is all painted, it has not had any wash over the top. Let's look at the slightly smaller house where our bricks are going to be really small. And I'm going to stick with my 2/10 brush because it's pretty good. But this time, let's see, it's going to be quite the challenge. Landscape painting is something so many of us feel just a little bit intimidated by. So here is a little snippet of one of my many little introductions to landscape painting. Here's my massive book, and this is the painting that I'm particularly interested in, Norham Castle, Northumberland by Turner, because it uses essentially blue and yellow as its palette, and I think that's really interesting because blue and yellow are complementary colours on the colour wheel, and I don't think it lacks anything from having a minimal limited colour palette. In fact, I think it makes it extremely beautiful, and we are going to take these principles and have a go at doing a landscape using that very limited palette. Now, I'm very excited to be doing a sort of materials test with some new brushes I've received, and I'm filming that after this one today, but I could not resist getting this ginormous one-stroke wash brush out to be able to wet our paper. So that is a little sneak preview for you. Then we can get some of our leaves. So we're just going to build our tree reflection like this. Nice and gentle and soft, allowing for little bits of unpainted space, but you're just doing everything on this horizontal back and forth with a brush that isn't too big. And just go, start dilute, and then you can always add. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this and then we will come back in for the last bits. To finish off this piece, I need to sort of frame it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some more brush strokes in from the side that will just help sort of give these ones a bit of a context. So I'm going to be using my brown and my blues again. So I'm going to start off with my warm tones. And I'm just coming in from the side. And then also there'll be little bits that just catch across the middle as well. Because we want to sort of connect our various focal points. That's the that sort of aim with a landscape painting, is to have a sense of direction where the eye is going. And so you've got that sort of curve of the tree there, taking us up to that little house on the hill. And just try, unlike I did just there, to not get your curves, well, to not have curves. Essentially we want nice straight lines. And then to frame it with a bit of darkness and a bit of cold blue. And just going to take off some of the excess colour with my brush because I don't want it being too strong. I'm rather happy with the slight dry brushing I've got going on there. So I'm just kind of come up at the edges in the distance first. I don't want the blue to sort of come in quite as much as the warm tones have come in. And then down here, trying with all my might to do nice even lines. What can be rather nice is sort of a little bit of a colour coming over the reflection that you've done there. And that also gives us just a little bit of shadow, and I'm going to put a bit more shadow on there, as if the shadow from those leaves is just dappling over the water. And there we go, I'm rather pleased with that. A homage to the master himself, Turner, and a experiment with his use of colour, just using two tones from the colour palette of yellow and blue. Now your challenge is to have a go and to see if you can create that piece using both the really sort of loose techniques that we were doing for those distant mountains, as well as something a little bit more precise, and then your water reflection again. So thank you so much for watching. Let's do the satisfying reveal, peeling it off. And look out for a brush test with my brand new brushes. There we go. And happy painting to you all. So the Sweet Pea tier, which is £8 a month, get to enjoy all those watercolour challenges, and they get one a week plus all the perks I've talked about previously. But there is one more tier, and that is the cherry blossoms. And for £12 a month, you get all of what I've just mentioned, as well as one monthly interactive live stream painting session with me and your fellow Patreons, because Patreon is all about building a creative community and knowing you're not alone in your artistic struggles. So what I do is I come up with a painting project that covers some of the more recent things we've been trying in the watercolour challenges, and we have a really lovely Sunday afternoon on Zoom all together. So if this sounds like something you'd love to do, then all you need to do is go down to the episode notes and find the link to my Patreon, and there you will see it all laid out in front of you, and you can choose what tier you want to join. So I can't wait to have you join us, and yeah, I look forward to you starting your weekly watercolour challenges. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!